The Nature of Personal Reality, a Seth book by Jane Roberts, read by Martin John, final chapter, part 1, chapter 9. Natural Grace, the Framework of Creativity and the Health of Your Body and Mind, the Birth of Conscience. With animals, there are varying degrees of division between the self who acts and the action involved. With the birth of the conscious mind in man, however, the self who acts needed a way to judge its actions. Again, we come to the importance of that period of reflection in which the self, with the use of memory, glimpses its own past experience in the present and projects its results into the future. Now, that is all. I simply wanted to begin.
Session 636, January 29, 1973, 9:28 p.m. Monday. Good evening. Dictation.
The state of grace is a condition in which all growth is effortless, a transparent, joyful acquiescence that is a ground requirement of all existence. Your own body grows naturally and easily from its time of birth, not expecting resistance but taking its miraculous unfolding for granted, using all of itself with great, gracious, creatively aggressive abandon. You were born into a state of grace, therefore. It is impossible for you to leave it. You will die in a state of grace, whether or not special words are spoken for you, or water or oil is poured upon your head. You share this blessing with the animals and all other living things. You cannot fall out of grace, nor can it be taken from you. You can ignore it. You can hold beliefs that blind you to its existence. You will still be graced but unable to perceive your own uniqueness and integrity, and blind also to other attributes with which you are automatically gifted. Love perceives the grace in another. Like natural guilt, the state of grace is unconscious in the animals. It is protected. They take it for granted, not knowing what it is or what they do, yet it speaks through all their motions, and they dwell in the ancient wisdom of its ways. They do not have conscious memory, again, but the instinctive memory of the cells and organs sustain them. All of this applies in degrees according to the species, and when I speak of conscious memory, I am using words that are familiar to you. I mean a memory that can at any time look back through itself. In some animals, for instance, the rising of such conscious memory is apparent, yet still highly limited, specialized. A dog may remember where he saw his master last, but without being able to summon the memory, and operating without the kind of mental associations that you use. His connections will be of a more biological nature and will not provide the leeway that your own mental conditions allow you. The dog does not recall joyful appreciation of his own state of grace from a past, nor anticipate a reoccurrence in any future. With the large freedom provided by the conscious mind, however, man could stray from that great inner joy of being, forget it, disbelieve in it, or use his free will to deny its existence. The splendid biological acceptance of life could not be thrust or forced upon his emerging consciousness. So to be effective, efficient, to emerge in the new focus of awareness, grace had to expand from the life of the tissue to that of the feelings, thoughts, and mental processes. Grace became the handmaiden of natural guilt then. Man became aware of his state of grace when he lived within the dimensions of his consciousness as it was turned toward his new world of freedom. When he did not violate, he was aware of his own grace. When he violated, it fell back into cellular awareness, as with the animals, but he felt consciously cut off from it and denied. The simplicity of natural guilt does not lead to what you think of as conscience, yet conscience is also dependent upon the moment of reflection that in a large measure sets you apart from the animals. Conscience, as you think of it, is caused by a dilemma and a misunderstanding of the conditions set upon your physical existence. Conscience arose with the emergence of artificial guilt.
Give us a moment.
Artificial guilt is still highly creative in its way, an offshoot made in man's image as his conscious mind began to consider and play upon the natural innocent guilt that originally implied no punishment. The conscious mind is a maker of distinctions. It brings to the surface of awareness whole gestalts of previously unconscious material, then assembles and organizes it in ever-changing form. Through purposeful focus, a literally infinite amount of such data can be unconsciously stored. Then only the desired elements will emerge. The conscious mind is endlessly creative. This applies to all areas of conscious mind thinking. It is also the organizer of physical data. So natural guilt became the basis for all kinds of variations. These closely followed man's religious and social groupings. The latter are also the result of the aware mind's capacity to play upon, mix and merge, and rearrange perception and experience. Man is innately good. His conscious mind must be free with its own will. He can, therefore, consider himself bad. He is the one who sets those standards in his own image. The mind is also equipped to see its own beliefs, reflect upon them, and evaluate their results. So using this tool as it was meant to be used would automatically help man in recognizing both his beliefs and their effects. Part of this great permissiveness has to do with the fact that man is to realize that he creates his own reality. Free will is a necessity. The leeway given allows him to materialize his ideas, meet them in physical experience, and evaluate for himself their particular kind of validity. The animal has no such need. It nestles safely within the confines of its instincts while exploring other aspects of awareness with which man is not so intimately familiar. Yet natural grace and natural guilt are given you, and these will also grow more fully into conscious awareness. If you can sit quietly and realize that your body parts are replacing themselves constantly, if you turn your conscious mind into the consideration of such activity, then you can realize your own state of grace. If you can sense your thoughts steadily replacing themselves, then you can also feel your own elegance. You cannot feel guilty and enjoy such recognition, however, not on a conscious level. If you find that you are berating yourself because of something you did yesterday or 10 years ago, you are not being virtuous. You are most likely involved with artificial guilt. Even if a violation occurred, natural guilt does not involve penance. It is meant as a precautionary measure, a reminder before an event. Do not do this again is only the afterward message. I am placing these concepts within your time scheme because in your terms they were born out of it. But the fact is that all time is simultaneous. In a simultaneous time, punishment makes no sense. The punishment as an event and the event for which you were being punished exist at once. And since there is no past, present, and future, you could just as well say that the punishment came first. We have mentioned reincarnation hardly at all. Here let me state that the theory is a conscious mind interpretation in linear terms. On the one hand, it is highly distorted. On the other hand, it is a creative interpretation, as the conscious mind plays with reality as it understands it. But in the terms used, there is no karma to be paid off as punishment unless you believe that there are crimes for which you must pay. In larger terms, there is no cause and effect either, though these are root assumptions in your reality. I use these concepts, again, because of their familiarity to you. In the world of time, they appear as real. We return once more to that moment of reflection, for it is here that both causes and effects first appear. Dimly, in your terms, it can be traced by observing the animals that even now roam the earth, for each in its own degree, far less than yours, shows that reflection. In some, for all intents and purposes, it does not exist at all, yet it is there, latent. The greater your period of reflection, the greater the amount of time that seems to pass between events. You seem to think that there is an expanse of time between reincarnational existences, that one follows the other as one moment seems to follow another. Because you perceive a reality of cause and effect, you hypothesize a reality in which one life affects the next one. With your theories of guilt and punishment, you often imagine that you are hampered in this existence by guilts collected in the last life, or worse, accumulated through the centuries. These multiple existences, however, are simultaneous and open-ended. In your terms, the conscious mind is growing toward a realization of the part it has to play in such multidimensional reality. It is enough that you understand your part in this existence. When you fully comprehend that you form what you think of as your current reality, all else will fall into place. Your beliefs, thoughts, and feelings are instantly materialized physically. Their earthly reality occurs simultaneously with their inception, but in the world of time, lapses between appear to occur. So I say one causes the other, and I use those terms to help you understand, but all are at once. So are your multiple lives occurring as the immediate realization of your being in the natural extension of its many faceted abilities. At once does not imply a finished state of perfection, nor a cosmic situation in which all things have been done, for all things are still happening. You are still happening, but both present and future selves, and your past self, is still undergoing what you think is done. Moreover, it is experiencing events that you do not recall, that your
linear attuned
consciousness cannot perceive on that level. Your body has within it the miraculous strength and creative energy with which, in your terms, it was born. You
most
probably take this to mean that I'm implying the possibility of an unending state of youth. Why, youth can be physically prolonged far beyond its present duration. That is not what I'm saying. Physically, your body must follow the nature into which you were born, and in that context the cycle of youth and age is highly important. In some ways, the rhythm of birth and death is like a breath taken and exhaled. Feel your own breath as it comes and goes. You are not it, yet it comes into you and leaves you, and without its continuous flow you could not physically exist. Just so your lives go in and out of you, you and yet not you, and a portion of you, while letting them all go, remembers them and knows their journey. Imagine where your breath goes when it leaves your body, how it escapes through an open window, perhaps, and becomes a part of the space outside where you would never recognize it. And when it has left you, it is no longer a part of what you are, for you are already different. So the lives you have lived are not you, while they are of you. Close your eyes. Think of your breath as lives, and you the entity through which they have passed and are passing. Then you will feel your state of grace, and all artificial guilts will be meaningless. None of this negates the supreme and utter integrity of your individuality, for you are as well the individual entity through whom the lives flow, and the unique lives that are expressed through you. No one atom of the air is like another. Each in its own way is aware and capable of entering into greater transformations and organizations, filled with infinite potential. As your breath leaves you and becomes part of the world, free, so do your lives leave you and continue to exist in your terms. You cannot confine a personality that you were to a particular century that is finished and deny it other fulfillments, for even now it exists and has fresh experience. As your moment of reflection gave birth to consciousness as you think of it, for both
really
came together, so then can another phenomenon and kind of reflection give birth to at least some dim conscious awareness of the vast dimensions of your own reality. The animal moves, say, through a forest. You move through psychic, psychological, and mental areas in the same way. Through his senses, the animal gets messages from distant areas that he cannot directly perceive, and of which he is largely unaware. And so do you. Am I speaking too softly?
end of dictation, end of session.